welcome back to the few of you that have heard this podcast to Climb That Mountain. Today's episode is one of celebration as I'm here with two dear people. I'm Brian Castle. Joining me today, Annie Newton and Amanda Boyd. We're celebrating the launch of the most badass nonprofit on the planet, the Blue Ridge Collaborative. Annie Newton, the founding executive director, is a noted historian, award-winning nonprofit leader, and world traveler. Recently returned from the land of the emerald leprechauns. Amanda Boyd claims to be a professional volunteer and hobbyist, but she's so much more than that. Entrepreneur, nonprofit leader, and just an incredible shoulder to cry on in times of need. I haven't experienced it myself, but that's what I hear from the North Carolina circles. It's gone statewide.
Shoulders always open, Brian.
Thanks to both of you for joining. So, what is the Blue Ridge Collaborative? We have created something here with intentionality so we can serve more people, close some gaps, if you will, that are out there in the kinds of stories that are told. Things are evolving, through corporate media, a lot of taking down of public funding for arts, culture, and education initiatives. These things aren't less important, but they're not being prioritized, especially when there's a profit motive or government motives kind of behind it. So we've created something to where we can work with a variety of people, whether it's entrepreneurs, nonprofits, creatives and makers, to help them realize projects across virtually every media type. Our current pipeline of projects, even from the beginning, kind of ranges from music and art to quite a bit of stuff in the history space. And kind of a unifying theme is bringing people together, making communities tighter, and doing that in these areas like arts, culture, and education through building greater understanding of each other. Annie, this has come about, from hours and hours of conversations you and I have had together and with other people like Amanda. What kind of share from your perspective? I've got my own agenda, but share from your perspective why you wanted to do this.
Yeah, so I think that, like you said, Brian, we've done so many projects together, and every time we would meet to talk about something, more and more projects would kind of come about, right? Like we had this ongoing list of all these things we wanted to do, and we kept thinking we have to find the right group to kind of partner with on this. Who could we take this project to that could see this project come to light? And then finally, we just were kind of like, let's start our own nonprofit. And that way, then we can do all this stuff on our own or take on clients, do this type of work for other people as well. I think, like you said, history has come so far, right? I think COVID in general really changed the history and the culture field in that we all had to catch up. So we all had to modernize and catch up. And suddenly it opened up this whole avenue of being able to reach people in other ways. No longer did you have to travel to one specific place in order to see something or interact with something. Now you can do it all online. And I think within that forced change, which ended up being a good thing, now what we're really seeing is that these like small historic sites or these small art museums or small education centers, they now can reach millions, hundreds, thousands of people through various avenues that doesn't have to be in person. And I think within that has opened up the door for Blue Ridge to kind of come, Blue Ridge Collaborative to come in and also fill that void and help these smaller groups or even these bigger groups reach more people through various types of marketing, various types of projects, various types of storytelling. And as well, like you were also saying too, I mean, you know, fortunately, COVID kind of pushed this field into moving into the 21st century, but we've now recently seen a lot of rollbacks of that in terms of the actual content. And so you're seeing lots of disinformation, you're seeing lots of kind of moving towards this white male centric narrative, which we all know is not the full scope of the story, if you will. And so our kind of purpose here is to really fill that in. And that is near and dear to my heart, is to kind of complete the story, complete the timeline, complete storytelling in a sense that things don't happen in a vacuum. And I think that we're really meeting the moment in that it's kind of the right time, right place to step in and really help, whether we're helping other people tell these stories or we're helping to tell these stories on our own. It's kind of perfect timing in that sense.
I obviously agree since I'm helping you start this thing right now. You know, from my perspective, yeah, you know, I've got some selfish reasons for doing it in addition to all the bigger picture. At this point, you know, a lot of people in my generation or age group, I find this, at least anecdotally in my conversations, you start thinking not just about making money or solidifying what you're doing, but leaving a legacy. And I feel like I've got a growing legacy of stuff I've done in the marketing world, especially in the social impact space and helping entrepreneurs launch and scale businesses that make a difference in people's lives. But nothing has captured my imagination in the way that our work with you and Amanda and others has, what I've so eloquently labeled creative non-marketing work from the lens of a guy who owns a marketing agency. I want to do more of this work, and I want to do it more with you and the really cool family of people that you bring to the table, like Amanda and like, you know, our beloved Queen Beverly Scarlett and somebody I'm just in awe of, Freddie Parker, who's also joined our board, North Carolina's greatest living historian. I'm trademarking that for him. But you know, so it's a chance. It's a chance for me to. I've always told people that I like playing guitar, and I've got my band that's Park Life, but I like going and finding a super group to go play with. And I feel like we've put together a super group where we can just really do some great things. And I guess my last reason, you know, all I hear about every day nonstop is the first and ninth letter of the alphabet, every conversation. So we're not going to pollute, we're not going to say the murderer's name on this podcast right now. But I see this as a huge opportunity for all of us participating in it and everybody who benefits from the work we do as a chance to stay true to humanity. And I personally am zigging hard to that while everybody else tries to figure out how to integrate the first and ninth letters of the alphabet into their personal brand or their business brand. I love carpenters. I don't love hammers. And that's what it's about for me. And so great joy in my life is working with creative people. And whether it's in a marketing context or storytelling for history purposes. So is it okay that I'm that selfish?
Well, I think too, it's also a way just to continue what has been started, right? The past 25 years in I don't want to just say history, but in the cultural field has really changed. It's changed dramatically. And now we're seeing things obviously are rolling back. And so I really see this as a way to just continue the progress that had been made 10 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And we're just going to keep doing that while maybe other places are not, or other places catch up, if you will. So I think it's a way to just continue this kind of forward progress, which is so important in order to understand and celebrate everything else that has happened or is going on culturally.
I think that's important too. This work that we do, we just finished a project for the 250th anniversary of America, right? We covered a lot of ground that people don't want covered. A lot of people do not want this ground covered, and it had to do with Black and Indigenous experience in a certain part of America, in our Carolina Piedmont region, from what Indigenous people call pre-contact period. That's pre-white colonial settlers up to the Civil War. But even when you cover that kind of ground, if you allow yourself to kind of be immersed in the subject matter, there's a lot to celebrate. The resilience of these people that were experiencing the greatest crimes against humanity in history, some of them,
Yeah.
And you see the resilience, and you see the culture, and you see what lives on today from that time. And you also couple that with not only the grave mistreatment while they were living, but the indignity that they've suffered, and the fact that our work brings them dignity. It brings them recognition of their humanity in new.
And I think the joy within that.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there is so much celebration within these stories for people of color, for women. I mean, it's not just, and for, I mean, even white men too. I mean, it's not that we're just focusing on certain ethnicities or genders, but I think, again, like nothing happens in a vacuum.
I think people crave authenticity.
Yep.
And there's something, oral history, collecting oral histories and shared lived experiences is not anything new by any means. If we can be one organization out of the many doing it, and we can collect these, then people can continue to learn. This isn't just a platform for them, but it's also a resource for those wanting to connect within the communities that they're talking about, or in such an authentic way, because it's through their lens. And when you get all different kinds of stories, even if it's about the same subject or the same experience, I think there's something beautiful to be said about the similarities within the differences of all of us, no matter our culture, heritage, race, whatever, that those differences can bring us together in a way. But also you have this authentic version of human. It's just very humanistic to hear someone's story. So I think that's what's cool about the organization, and like diving into the different projects that you all have talked about and your very long list and ambitious list of things that we're going to do. But I think people crave that now. And as someone who, my primary occupation was not history, it's always been a hobby, or it's always been a passion, and I've been interested in it. But, when you only hear one side of things, that's what you think is true. And I think in the world that we live in today, that we know that there are many sides of the coin. And so it's time for us to kind of like showcase that. So I think that's what's so cool about the openness of what Blue Ridge is doing.
I think you hit the nail on the head there too, is that, I've always said that people are people, right? No matter what time period they're living in, we all share the same emotions. We all share the same humanity, the same humanistic tendencies. Wars have been fought over love. Wars have been fought over hate. I mean, right? Like you can go back to 1,000 years ago and people still have the same emotions that they have today. Now, their circumstances clearly are different and their surroundings are different, but that kind of basic human spirit is the same. And I think, like you were saying, Amanda, that at the root of all of this is to kind of just really showcase that we're all just people.
Yeah.
And we all have similar experiences in ways of feelings or conditions or anything like that. We're all just people, and we're all just doing the best that we can. And to highlight that, I think kind of puts us all on this kind of same humanistic level, which is really what we're hoping to do.
I'm the marketing guy in the room. I'm gonna go ahead and tease a project that I think encapsulates what we're about. Annie and I and our partners like you and some of our clients that we attract through my agency, we've been brainstorming a ton of projects, and you were joking about how big and ambitious that list is, and I would just tell you it's only as big and as ambitious as you've got the time and money and people to make it happen.
Sure.
But Annie brought this idea to the table, and it's way cooler than anything I've come up with, because at the most granular level, it takes something. There's like this old kind of sad joke about how the most segregated hour in America is the church hour on Sunday morning. And she's come up with this great, and she's been talking with different people about this for years, and we're going to do it. And I think it might be the first project that gets fully realized. But it's a cookbook, and it's bringing together white churches, black churches, Hispanic churches, churches with mixed populations, but kind of an old style cookbook where each church will get featured, a little bit about their history, and then several recipes and maybe a cool story. And, we're planning to do this in a market that the three of us know and love, and could be able to connect quickly to make something happen in terms of not only the funding, but the people of these different churches would become the subject matter, and our job's to kind of lovingly curate it and get it ready for publication. And we've even talked about having a community potluck event as our book launch, something that's carries through the concept. And it is, like you were just talking, Annie, like something, these people, they do everything together in a lot of cases except go to church. And so I think it's one of those things that'll be incredibly uplifting. I'm almost placing that demand or that imperative on all of our work, that it be uplifting and bring people together. I don't want people that's the thing with the people that are kind of dismissive of sharing certain types of history in schools or other forums. It's not about beating people up. It's about doing better by each other and recognizing the beauty in what's come out of all that. Let's talk for a minute, about what we kind of think is uniquely valuable about Blue Ridge with the different funding models, especially. That's an incredible challenge now. I don't think people have a full grasp. I certainly did not until our conversations, that when the federal government cuts off a lot of its funding, there's a ripple or domino effect. So, our ability to kind of fund projects in different ways. Can you talk a little bit about the different ways? Because you're kind of the mastermind of this piece.
I mean, I think, one big challenge here is that, like you were saying, so much funding has been cut because there's not the money. The federal government has cut a lot of funding sources off, grants have dried up. So everything, the stuff that is still existing is now really competitive. But what we'll be able to do is to come in and help talk to different agencies now, whether it's a client, whether it's our own projects. There are so many different avenues now, whether it's fundraising, whether it's crowdsourcing, whether it's donation based. There obviously are still grants that are available, but you have to be very specific in what you're looking for to apply it to to certain projects. But we'll really be focusing kind of, I think, on more creative ways to fund projects instead of just going straight after these huge grants that really are no longer in existence, because either they're not being offered, the money is gone, or you're competing now against hundreds of thousands of other agencies who are trying to go after the same pot. So I think that's what will really help, in addition to being kind of a one-stop shop, and we can do really anything that we want to do, anything that a client wants to do, we can do it in-house, in terms of, animation, app creation, recording, filming.
Yeah, we've got this. There, these. I think our value proposition kind of ties together that with you with the funding, with the two of us having this vast creative network. Like I've personally lined up about 36 creatives who want to work on these projects. And like you said, animation, motion graphics, filmmaking, well, online, digital development. We've even got the resources to promote the projects
Yeah.
so that they have bigger reach, things like PR and advertising. Between those two things and kind of the firepower of the board, this is an organization, and there's some of these out there. This is kind of what I looked to when I was kind of pushing our conversations on the model. We're not going to be meek. We're going to try to, what did I tell you? Everything we see out there that's on mission, we're going to try to get done.
Yeah.
That's some ambition, but it mirrors the ambition I have in everything that I do. If I believe in my work, I want as many people to be touched by it as possible. And so this organization is going to be both social in terms of its impact, but it's going to be entrepreneurial in that we want to scale that impact as much as we can. And let's talk about that board. I use the word firepower. Like I'm seriously in awe, probably least with you, Amanda, but like with whoa, wait, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Amanda, you and the others, I can't believe we got all these quick yeses.
Yeah.
And I know it's probably a lot to do with Annie, little to do with me, and a lot to do with the purpose. But we've got award-winning historians. We've got amazing nonprofit. There's 3 of you who have run high-impact nonprofits in multiple markets. We've got entrepreneurs who are very successful people who do it through centering their companies on people. That, again, whether you're in love with carpenters or hammers, these are people that believe in people and their power to get things done. How does that make you feel, Amanda, seeing the kind of people? It's not like a traditional working board, but being able to sit alongside these people and knowing how strong you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Obviously, I haven't met everyone yet, but I think it's kind of a surreal experience. I've been a part of a handful of nonprofits now over the past 5 years. Some were great experiences and others have been more challenging. But one thing that I can say about organizations that get things done are people that have strong boards. And so whether you're a working board or more of an advisory role, I don't think it matters, because when your director needs to ask a question, if they have a deep bench, then it makes a world of difference. And as someone who's been an executive director before, it's just a different game. I've worked in private business, and of course that is a lot different than nonprofit. And your board can make or break you, no matter what capacity that they serve. So just hearing these bios from the people that are coming in, knowing that we're connecting not just within our own state, but reaching across borders, is really cool, because I think that continues to open up the diverse conversations that we can have about different topics and connect with different audiences, which I think was another big part of this mission and wanting to start this nonprofit. So to see their their like enthusiasm for what's to come next, and the fact that it was an easy yes. I mean, Annie did twist my arm, but no,
So you were the outlier. Okay.
yeah, I was
Let's
like,
talk more about that.
No, I definitely think like, it's an easy concept to understand. I think we've all understood that, that it's a need for a lot of different communities. And so I think it's cool. I definitely feel like the shrimp in the boat, a little bit. And so my plan is to absorb as much knowledge from these people
Me
as
too.
possible. So I'm
Me
here
too.
for a selfish endeavor. Like, yeah, this is cool, but also teach me your ways.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I was of course honored that Annie thought of me, that she still wanted to work with me after our years in the trenches.
Well, I will say, when Brian, we were kind of brainstorming who we wanted to ask to be on the board, my immediate thought was obviously Amanda. And I was like, you just are such a dream to work with. And I feel like, from the moment we first met, it was like the stars aligned, and we've always been each other's like biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And professionally. And, you bring such good experience, which really also adds to, Brian, you were asking about like the different funding models and stuff like that. And I think that's also where Amanda, like when we worked together at the Alliance, that was kind of our thing, right? Like I would come up with an idea, you and I would talk about it, and then like you would be like the muscle behind it, like it just really, I think you have such a strength, and I'm just so glad that you'll be coming on board.
There's a few relationships on here, like our CP. I didn't mention a few minutes ago. We've got an amazing attorney from one of the biggest firms in the country that you helped us land, Jessica, who serves the arts community in Raleigh. She's not going to need to be a quick study. She gets it instantly.
Yeah, she's a whip.
And then David Wilson, one of my very best friends of 30 years, going back to college. And we married two best friends that went to Indian Trail Elementary School here near Charlotte. And so we've been friends since our UNC Asheville days. So that goes back, 30 years. And then Kevin Jones, who's been one of my best friends and mentors. And I have to do this on this podcast. The day I met him, he threatened to fire me. And here we are, almost 30 years later, and he's bringing his amazing mind to the board. But then some of the other people who are a little more recent are just as deep. George Baker, entrepreneur, what Freddie has been to y'all and to me on the projects. And then, of course, Ashley Sharp and Camila Bordeaux, just outstanding nonprofit leaders. And I think their combined age is less than mine. So let's cover two more things before we relieve our audience of all the Blue Ridge Collaborative for a few minutes at least. Annie, you and I have been talking a lot about kind of the changing landscape of distribution when it comes to history projects, art projects. And that's really, it makes doing this kind of work friendlier to the people we partner with that want to get it out, don't you think?
Yeah. I think, again, like I had said at the beginning of the podcast, COVID changed a lot. It changed a lot for maybe the worse, but a lot for the better in terms of the arts and history field. And it made us all have to modernize. And I think with distribution, now we can do so much, right? So it used to be that for historians, you would go by the book or you could go to the historic site, and that was about it. And now you can still do those things, and I highly recommend doing those things. But now there are so many different ways to reach people.
Mhm.
And Amanda and I saw this when we were at the Alliance during the height of COVID, where we were getting people logging into our programs from California, from Maine, from Florida, from Texas. I mean, people were logging in and interacting with our content from all over. And now, especially with this, when we're going to have, it's not just a Zoom, it's not just, an interactive exhibit that's on a website. Now we really can do anything digitally. And Blue Ridge has the team to do anything digitally that we'll be able to reach so many more people and be so much more creative. And I think we're kind of opening up that field that people are starting to dip their toe into and maybe are limited in doing that, like these small historic sites like the Alliance, like places that aren't the Smithsonian, which maybe they're a little kind of handcuffed now too, but now we will be able to do so much more with this content that other places maybe don't have the budget for, or we can help these places find the budget to be able to do some really, really cool projects, really cool content in ways that they felt like they were not able to in the past.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The more I think about it, there were these kind of what you just illustrated with the physical, these traditional outlets, and if you think about like we're getting into some filmmaking, some docu-series,
Yeah.
well, the kind of programming we're doing was probably never sexy enough for broadcast television or much of cable. With getting it on public broadcasting, like if we had a corporate sponsor or we had a foundation or a family, what would be more impressive to them as far as impact? That or something we distribute on YouTube instantly that might reach millions and millions and millions of people instead of tens of thousands. And then when you couple that, having that digital distribution it's not infinite, but it feels near infinite
Yeah.
as far as the impact, then we're going to still play because the through line of all our work is it's centered on communities. And so we can do things like have a potluck dinner. If we publish a church cookbook, we can do a local kind of art cinema screening of a film before for the stakeholders that made it happen before it goes on YouTube. And so it's almost like we're playing at these edges of were the traditional outlets, and it feels good.
Well, and you can do it all. I mean, I think one of the really big reasons why I really wanted Amanda to join this is her genius is that, when we were at the Alliance, our budget was small and we would come up with these really cool ideas. And then we had to figure out a way to market it creatively. And
we were scrappy.
We were. I mean, it was this kind of, we'd be like, okay, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And like, Amanda, you would come up with these like kind of these amazing, like organic ways to get the word out and these ways to connect with people, like bringing in influencers and bringing in, there are these kind of really cool kind of grassroots way to get your project seen. And that's when I worked with Amanda, that was, to me personally, I felt like that was one of her huge strengths and why I really wanted, one of the many reasons why I really, really wanted her on the board is because of the fact that we're going to be doing all of that, right? So now we're going to have a larger platform, hopefully more funding.
That's the goal, right?
And we'll be able to do all of it, right? So we can use these traditional marketing outlets as well as some of these like really cool, creative marketing tools that are now become much bigger than they had been.
COVID brought us together in a digital platform and did expedite, history places had to dust off the cobwebs and learn how to do technology, which was it was really fun to be a part of that transfer. But then towards the end of it, you heard about all this burnout. I have Zoom burnout. I don't want to go online anymore. I'm tired of it. I want to connect in person. But I honestly think that like what happened was that as people were kind of coming out of our houses and connecting in different ways, that we lost the emphasis to build a community around the subject of what we were talking, even on a digital platform. And I think that your marketing does that in one way, but also the host. There was a culture behind the digital platform, which I don't think everybody did. And you saw these numbers drop off in other organizations. And we had people coming to us. We would have a couple hundred people tune in for like a lunch and learn Zoom thing, where other organizations were seeing this huge like dip in their virtual presence, and even their website hits and YouTube hits and things like that. And I contribute that whatever you're going to do, whether it's going to be something that goes on YouTube, a docuseries, interview, whatever, that there's a community vibe that you have to pull in. And podcasts are a great way to do that and express like your personality, the personality of the people doing the work, but also the personality of what the organization is as a whole. And I think sometimes we forget that when we're on a digital front.
No, I think you're exactly right. You have to make it personal. I think there is this kind of catch-22 where like people do want to connect, but they also want to connect at their own convenience.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I'm like, well,
I know I'm a hermit.
Yeah, like it really, and I don't want to keep talking about COVID, but it really changed a lot of the landscape and in a field, the history field and the cultural field, where we are very slow to want to adapt. You need to make it feel personal. You need to make it feel like you're having a conversation and connecting with someone, but through the computer screen or through your phone screen.
This is a good chance for me to wrap this thing up with a bit of a tease. So, Climb That Mountain podcast is produced by Park Life Studio, which is also proud to announce coming soon from these two. If you enjoyed them, you didn't, you can go ahead and switch off. But if you enjoyed hearing their voices and want to learn more from them, and I'll let them tell you what they have to teach and talk about, we're launching the Old Ties podcast.
Well, this idea came, because of telling stories, but also because me and being more of in the civilian territory and not a historian by academia, there's a lot that I don't know. And I feel like other people feel that way too, that we want to know about the stories of the people. And I think, there's wonderful ways to learn about history, but for me, it's always been very fascinating to learn about the helpers, the ordinary people that make an extraordinary difference, just doing the things that they know how to do and their own strengths. And so I like those types of stories, which got Annie and I, discussing how can we highlight those stories, is really to shine a light on stories, on untold stories from the people, or just fun facts that maybe you don't know, fun little anecdotes about things that you might have understood the bigger concept, but maybe there's smaller things at play, because there always is. And I think that it's kind of a good way, I think, to connect to a bigger story in different ways. I think it makes us kind of headhunt a little bit more and dive into kind of the nitty gritty of the behind the scenes. And I also think for just general population that likes history as entertainment, I think it makes you feel like you too have your own story to tell.
People really connect to the personal, and history is personal. It's not just about the laws or the wars or the dates on a timeline. I mean, it really, history, it's just like everyday life now. And I think sometimes that's not emphasized enough. Everyone is experiencing things in different ways. And so really this whole, our podcast will be about highlighting personal stories from the past. And all history is just personal stories put together.
Thanks to you both for joining me on my little fiefdom of a podcast and for embarking on this amazing adventure with me.